Question 79. Select yes if the following statement is true. Otherwise, select no. Credits granted to your Azure free account will expire after a certain period of time. Is it yes or no? And the correct answer is it's yes. Explanation. The correct answer is yes. Eligible new users get $200 Azure credit in your billing currency for the first 30 days and a limited quantity of free services for 12 months with your Azure free account. After 30 days or 12 months, credit will expire. Next question. Select yes if the following statement is true. Otherwise, select no. A media company has set up a hybrid cloud environment by configuring an Azure virtual private connection between Azure and an on-premises network. There are costs associated with transferring data from your on-premises network to Azure. Is it yes or no? And the correct answer is it's no. Explanation. The correct answer is no. Data transfer in data coming into the Azure data center is free in Azure. In other words, transferring data from your on-premises environment to your Azure data center is free. Next question. Select yes if the following statement is true. Otherwise, select no. A media company has set up a hybrid cloud environment by configuring an Azure virtual private connection between Azure and on-premises network. There are costs associated with transferring data from Azure to your on-premises network. Is it yes or no? And the correct answer is it's yes. Explanation. The correct answer is yes. When communication occurs from Microsoft Azure to your on-premises data center, the company must pay an additional fee for data transfer. At that time, you can select from the pay-as-you-go type for the fixed monthly charge type that doesn't depend on the amount of communication. Specifically, the first 5 GB per month is free and the charge will change depending on the transfer amount. Next question. Select yes if the following statement is true. Otherwise, select no. A media company considering using Microsoft Azure. Currently, we are using a private cloud, so it is necessary to implement a hybrid cloud model with Azure. In order to do this, it is necessary to migrate the private cloud to Azure. Is it yes or no? And the correct answer is it's no. Explanation. The correct answer is no. The hybrid cloud model is a cloud uses pattern that combines both the public cloud model and the private cloud model. This means you are using multiple clouds at the same time, so you don't have to move your private cloud to an Azure environment. Next question. A media company is considering using Microsoft Azure. You are currently using a private cloud, but you have decided to cease its uses. When is the right time to terminate a private cloud hosted in a data center? And the options are 1. After all resources in the private cloud have been migrated to your on-premises environment. 2. After all resources in the private cloud have been migrated to the public cloud. 3. Maintaining all resources in the private cloud. 4. After shutting down all resources in the private cloud. And the correct answer is option 2. After all resources in the private cloud have been migrated to the public cloud. Explanation. Option 2 is the correct answer. If all your servers have been migrated to the Azure cloud, which is a public cloud, and there are no dependencies left for a private cloud or on-premises environment, you can completely cease using it. Option 1 is incorrect. Migrating resources to an on-premises environment is incorrect because migration on-premises from a private cloud cannot be done. Option 3 is incorrect. It cannot be ceased while maintaining resources. Resources must be migrated before they are terminated. Option 4 is incorrect. Even if you stop the resource when you abolish the private cloud, if the resource remains here, that resources will also be abolished, so it is not appropriate. Next question. Select yes if the following statement is true. Otherwise, select no. A media company is considering using Microsoft Azure. Since they are currently using an on-premises data center, they need to implement a hybrid cloud model with Azure. They are able to expand their on-premises data capacity to the public cloud. Is it yes or no? And the correct answer is, it's yes. Explanation. The correct answer is yes. Companies can use public cloud providers such as Microsoft Azure to extend their on-premises resource configurations. For example, it is possible to expand the storage in the on-premises environment and maintain the configuration in which they can use storage in the cloud as a hybrid cloud. By doing so, it is possible to expand storage indefinitely, using the cloud together. This allows storage beyond the physical constraints of the on-premises environment. Next question. Select yes if the following statement is true. Otherwise, select no. A media company is considering using Microsoft Azure. They are currently using Microsoft Active Directory, and so they need to work with Azure AD. They can use the business-to-business feature of Azure AD to manage external partners. Is it yes or no? And the correct answer is yes. Explanation. The correct answer is yes. Microsoft Azure has an ID service called Azure Active Directory. Azure AD's business-to-business capabilities allow you to manage external partners while maintaining control of your own corporate data. Business-to-business collaboration in Azure Active Directory is a feature of external identities that allows you to invite guest users to your organization to collaborate. B2B collaboration allows you to securely share applications and services with guest users accessed by other organizations while maintaining control over your data. Regardless of the size of your external partner, you can work with your external partner in a safe and secure manner, even if you don't own Azure AD or have an IT department. A simple invitation acceptance process allows partners to use their credentials to access your resources. Developers can use the Azure AD B2B API to customize the invitation process and create applications such as self-service sign-up portals. Next question. Select yes if the following statement is true. Otherwise, select no. A media company is considering using Microsoft Azure. They are currently using Microsoft Active Directory, and so they need to work with Azure AD. For this, they can use the inter-consumer feature of Azure AD to manage their customers. Is it yes or no? And the correct answer is yes. Explanation. The correct answer is yes. Azure Active Directory B2C provides a business-to-consumer identity as a service. Customers can use their favorite social, enterprise, or local account IDs for single sign-on access to applications and APIs. Next question. Select yes if the following statement is true. Otherwise, select no. A media company is considering using Microsoft Azure. They are currently using Microsoft Active Directory, so they will need to work with Azure AD. Azure Active Directory can authenticate Azure and Microsoft Office 365 services. Is it yes or no? And the correct answer is yes. Explanation. The correct answer is yes. You can use Azure Active Directory to authenticate with both Azure resources and Microsoft Office 365. Microsoft 365 uses Azure Active Directory to manage user identities. The Microsoft 365 subscription includes a free Azure AD subscription, so you can integrate your on-premises Active Directory domain services to synchronize user accounts and passwords or set up single sign-on. You can also purchase advanced features to improve your account management. Next question. Select yes if the following statement is true. Otherwise, select no. Azure Service Health can view the status of Azure resources related to your subscription. Is it yes or no? And the correct answer is yes. Explanation. The correct answer is yes. Azure Service Health informs you about Azure service incidents and plant maintenance so you can take action to reduce downtime. Configure customizable cloud alerts, use personalized dashboards to analyze health issues, monitor impacts on cloud resources, receive guidance and support, and share details and updates. If you go to Service Health and Resource Health, you can see the status of the resources. You would go to Service Issues to see problems with your underlying Azure infrastructure. Next question. A company needs to deploy their server to the Azure cloud. In order to comply with the company's security policy, the server's network segment must be separated from other resources. Which is the most efficient way to deploy a server that meets this requirement? And the options are: 1. Deploy to another resource group. 2. Expand to another AZ. 3. Use a different account to isolate resources. 4. Deploy a new Azure Virtual Network. And the correct answer is option 4. Deploy a new Azure Virtual Network. Explanation. Option 4 is the correct answer. When separating servers, you can separate resources by deploying a new Azure Virtual Network. Azure Virtual Network is a basic component of a private network within Azure. VNets allow different types of Azure resources, such as Azure Virtual Machines, to communicate securely with other Azure resources, the Internet, and on-premises networks. VNets are similar to traditional networks operating in your own data center, but offer additional benefits to your Azure infrastructure, including scaling, availability, and isolation. Option 1 is incorrect. Resources installed in the same virtual network will not be separated even if they are deployed in different resource groups. Option 2 is incorrect. Resources can be associated if they can be deployed in different AZs and placed in the same virtual network. Option 3 is incorrect. You can use a different account to isolate resources as long as you don't share a virtual network. However, it is a very inefficient method and does not meet this requirement. Next question. A company needs to deploy a web application to the Azure cloud. It uses the Azure Web App Service and the SQL Database Service. Each of these services' availability need to be managed based on the SLA. Select two elements that will be used as SLA availability metrics. And the options are: number 1, mean time to recover, MTTR. 2. Mean time between failures, MTBF. 3. Mean time to success, MTTS. 4. Mean time to failure, MTTF. And the correct answer is 1. Mean time to recover and option 2. Mean time between failures. Explanation. Options 1 and 2 are correct answers. The service level agreement is calculated using mean time to recovery and mean time between failures as metrics. Mean time to recovery is the average time it takes to recover a component after a failure. Mean time between failures is the reasonably expected component uptime before the next failure. Next question. Your company plans to move its main corporate site to Azure. What are the initial costs of hosting a website on Azure? And the options are: 1. VM infrastructure costs are required. 2. Initial cost at the time of Azure registration is required. 3. You will need to pay a monthly fee for Azure resources. 4. Data transfer costs are required when migrating to Azure. And the correct answer is option 3. You will need to pay a monthly fee for Azure resources. Explanation. Option 3 is the correct answer. Azure is a service that charges only the amount used as a subscription, paid as a monthly user's fee. You will have to pay a monthly fee for Azure resources. Option 1 is incorrect. No VM infrastructure costs are required. All you need to consider is the user's fee incurred as a monthly bill for the VM. Option 2 is incorrect. Azure is a pricing model that has monthly pay-as-you-go users' fees. Therefore, no initial cost is required. Option 4 is incorrect. No data transfer costs are required when migrating to Azure. Sending data to the Azure data center is free. Next question. Select yes if the following statement is true. Otherwise, select no. The Azure CLI, Azure PowerShell, and Azure Portal all available as tools for virtual machines with Mac OS, Linux, Ubuntu, and Windows 10 operating systems. Is it yes or no? And the correct answer is it's yes. Explanation. The correct answer is yes. The Azure CLI, Azure PowerShell, and Azure Portal are all available as tools for virtual machines with Mac OS, Linux, Ubuntu, and Windows 10 operating systems. The Azure Portal can be viewed in any browser, so it can be viewed on almost any operating system. A dedicated version is also provided for the Azure CLI and Azure PowerShell for use on all platforms. Next question. Select yes if the following statement is true. Otherwise, select no. In order to use the Azure AD service, you need to implement a domain controller in your Azure virtual machine. Is it yes or no? And the correct answer is it's no. Explanation. The correct answer is no. Azure Active Directory is provided as a managed service and does not require any environment setup, such as installation on the user side. Therefore, you don't need to provision a domain controller to implement Azure Active Directory. Thank you for watching this video. Buy our AZ 900 premium questions with 50% off. Check link in the description.